Laughter choice?
Okay. Welcome to Your Inner Child is an Idiot, the podcast where we look back on things from our childhood and see if they were any good to begin with. My name's DJ.
And my name's Damon. Hello.
Damon, do you know what time of year it is? If you say Pride Month, I swear to God. No, I'm just kidding. It is Pride Month, but it is also, I think...
No, teach me what month it is, Deej.
I don't want to say equally importantly, but differently importantly.
A different type of importance. A queer type of importance, one might say.
Yeah. Strange, isn't it? Not so much queer, but strange. It is the season of one of my favorite sports, hide the shirt. What could I be talking about? It's just a...
Are these hints, or are you having a stroke?
It's a movie about a majestic game that just... I like to think about just the majesty and the magic
baseball,
of the game.
Got it. But you also kept saying strange?
Well, I was trying to make a joke and it didn't work. So
I thought that like strange was in the title. I was trying to think of like baseball movies with strangers in the outfield.
No, I had a very quick hyperfixation on the word strange and couldn't stop saying it. That's what happened. It stars a guy who had a public meltdown some years ago. It stars
Mel Gibson. No, he's not in a baseball movie.
Not quite as controversial, but that level of public with his meltdown. That person who had a meltdown also has a famous 80s star brother. They were very big in the 80s and then had a continued acting career. Here, let me just say names. We got Wesley Snipes in there as well. We got Tom Baker.
Yeah.
Do you know where we're at?
I do. I'm trying to... Major League.
League. Starring...
Charlie Sheen
winning.
Charlie Sheen, or Carlos Estevez, I like to call him.
As he's known to you and others. His mama call him Cassius Clay. I'm going to call him Cassius Clay. Yes, we're going to watch Major League, the movie about the most fuckable sport on the planet. Unless you count horse racing, because people get real weird when I start talking about
uncomfortably into the horses.
Yeah. Have you seen this movie?
This is the Cleveland people, right?
Okay, I know we don't want to call them Indian necessarily, but I think we can say.
Oh, I didn't even catch I wasn't even doing it for woke reasons. I literally could not remember the team name.
People. Yes, the team has now been renamed the Cleveland Guardians.
Oh, what's their mascot?
It's
a guardian from Breath of the Wild.
Yes.
And the piano music just starts coming on. You start freaking out.
It's got the spindly arms and then like the creepy eye that just like laser beams at you. It's esoteric, but the people like it. The Cleveland people.
The kids love getting their picture with it, I'll tell you that. And they race them. It's cute. They race them. Okay, so it is the Cleveland people.
Yes.
And...
Have you seen this movie?
There's like a producer's scheme going on in this one, right? She's trying to tank the team.
Yes. The premise is...
A woman.
Boo,
right?
Yeah, right. A woman buys the team, and she realizes that if they do bad enough, she'll be able to move the team and make more money. Because I don't remember what.
Also, in Europe, it's known as a Ted Lasso.
Yes,
first season Ted Lasso.
There are it's not really that unrealistic for a baseball team because owners are terrible. But so she assembles a ragtag group of players just from the worst places, and there's no way they'll be good. We'll tank the team, but guess what, Damon?
Crew even.
Guess what? They come together.
Oh no! They tank the team, and she's able to move the team.
No,
like the Baltimore Colts did.
They come together, play one baseball. But they do things.
That's a genuine snort.
They do things
so dumb.
A little differently than the other teams. You know what I'm saying?
Let me tell you, the minute I saw that baseball on the cover of that VHS, I knew they did things a little bit differently because that baseball not only had sunglasses, he had a mohawk.
This is one of the many baseball movies that shaped my childhood. We've covered a lot of them. Rookie of the Year, Little Big League, Schindler's List. No, Twilight. I couldn't come up with the other one.
Twilight does have an infamous baseball
That's
scene,
true.
though.
That's true. Have you seen this at all? Have you seen the movie?
I feel like I've seen it in fits and starts. Is there a character in this He's like a burly black man, and he's bald, and he shaves his beard with a knife.
Played by Dennis Haysbert. Yeah, he plays Pedro Serrano. Mm-hmm.
Dennis Haysbert, the president, the 24 president?
That's the one.
Interesting. And the Allstate man.
That's right.
I'm just fucking naming Dennis Haysbert roles. And he was in that episode of Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so then I have seen parts of this.
I think this...
Charlie Sheen has glasses?
So that's actually kind of a story beat.
Okay, don't ruin it.
His nickname is Wild Thing, Rick Wild Thing Vaughn, and he throws real fast, but doesn't have a lot of accuracy, which is important for a pitcher. But they realize it's because he can't see, so he ends up getting these glasses. But don't worry, they have a skull and crossbones on him, so he looks cool.
Oh, so he's still a badass.
Yeah, he's still a badass.
Who's the woman? Who plays the woman?
Renee
Who's the
Russo.
villain?
No, I don't know. She's not the one. Renee Russo is Tom Berenger's like estranged wife, I think.
Okay.
Or no. She's Renee. Who was Renee in this movie? I don't remember.
Perfect.
So
this shaped your childhood, you said.
Yeah, I mean,
you didn't memorize the cast like a little gay Damon.
Yeah, and I think we'll get into a lot about the cast, especially Charlie Sheen's whole thing.
Oh, must I? I already lived through the 2010s. Do I have to go back through it?
I feel like that was a fever dream too. Like I had to look up just when I was being like, what happened with him again? I had to look it up. I'm sure we'll talk about it more when I do like 5 seconds of research.
That's one of my favorite emo bands, 5 Seconds of Research.
Is that the one that Jared Leto's in?
Yeah, he's great. He's great, but don't ask him about his acting if he's doing an interview for 5 Seconds of Research.
Oh, did he go?
But don't ask him about 5 Seconds of Research if he's doing a press junket for the thing.
Did he go full Billy Bob Thornton?
No, okay. That's just a Billy Bob Thornton thing. I'm sure Jared Leto's totally cool about it. Yeah. Aside from the condoms in the mail, he seems like a nice guy.
He seems super normal and cool. I am afraid that this movie, which was one that I liked a lot as a kid, is not. It was also like, unlike the other ones, other baseball movies that we've watched. Angels in the Outfield was the one I forgot. Rookie of the Year.
Have we watched Angels in the Outfield?
You got an angel with you right now. Yes, you do.
All right, because I wouldn't stop doing that.
Yeah.
You got an angel with you right now.
Those were made with children in mind, if not specifically for children. They were definitely aimed
because there were literal children in them.
Yeah. This one,
they were like, how do we get a child to play baseball? Give him some weird injury.
This either before he starts playing or after, so we might as well do it before. This movie, unlike those, is like raunchy, and I probably shouldn't have watched it when I did, and I don't think it's going to hold up. That's what I think.
Does anyone get called a faggot? This is Pride Month, and I feel like I should just put it forward on the front end.
It's definitely possible, and it's definitely possible I didn't think about that before bringing that to the table.
Well, it's baseball season. It is baseball season,
Send your mail to Damon loves Chachi at gmail.com.
Damon, the real homophobe, Xanthopoulos.
Watch along with us. We're going to watch Major League. We'll be right back. Imagine yourself at a baseball game. This is our commercial, okay?
Oh, yeah. Okay, got it. Thank you for letting me know that this is an ad.
You're taking in...
Skip ad.
Taking in the game, all right?
Uh-huh.
And then there's a vendor. Podcast here. Get your podcast support subscription. Cracker Jacks. Ice cold beer. Podcast.
See, that's fun. Foley work.
If
we had discussed it beforehand, I could have played the vendor and or the baseball enthusiast.
Oh, you're saying you wanted a choice? Is that what you wanted?
Yeah, I like to know what role I'm playing so I can bring something to it. Like maybe he's going through a terrible divorce. I can bring that to my choice of podcast subscriptions.
I did tell you to picture yourself watching a baseball game. I don't know how much more preparation you need.
This is why I was kicked out of the Groundlings. I'm starting to realize.
That, and you kept mailing dead rats to them because you were like in character, which is weird.
What? Is that a Jared Leto reference?
It is. So anyway,
famously part of the Groundlings.
Join Patreon. Patreon.com/Your Inner Child is an Idiot. Should we do a different commercial?
No, keep it. I want people to see this. I want people to see what you've done.
We got extra episodes. We got bonus live streams. We got Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power is coming back. We'll probably do some live streams for that.
I'm sure you guys are already excited. We're talking about it in your chat rooms.
I have had Star Wars on the brain. I feel like we gotta get that in the mix at some point, which is a really big. That's our Moby Dick.
Wait, how many Star Wars? I'll commit to 4 out of 6 Star Wars.
How many you got? How many you got?
What do you got?
Join the club, support our show, and you'll get all that cool stuff, and you'll get your request shot up to the top of the charts.
We're just saying, just grease the palms a little bit. You want us to, look back on Major League 2, Major League, back to the minors? That's money hitting my palm.
Pay us,
Foley
and
work.
We'll listen to you more, is what I'm saying. Jeez.
Money is speech. Supreme Court. Hobby Lobby or whatever. Not Hobby Lobby. Citizens United. Money is speech. Give us money, we'll listen to you.
You don't want to spend that on Hobby Lobby anyway. Spend it on us. Patreon.com/Your Inner Child is an Idiot. And we are back. We watched Major League, David S. Ward's
Magnum opus.
Magnum opus, aside from, I guess he wrote Sleepless in Seattle. We learned or relearned. I don't retain information, even if it's told to me.
Just saw it. In a handy little IMDb graphic. You just saw it.
Damon, that was weeks ago. So we pretty much recapped this in the intro, but basically Rachel Phelps has taken over the team. Her husband...
And that team... What's that team's name?
It's the Cleveland Indians. We're going to refer to them as the Indians because that is their name in this movie, okay?
Good.
She has inherited the team from her dead... He's dead, right? Her dead husband?
Yeah,
and
I believe so.
She learns that if the attendance gets below a certain point over the course of the year, she can break her contract and move the team to Miami. Miami has offered her a country club membership and money, I'm sure.
And a new stadium.
A new stadium. So she wants to move the team. So the way she gets that accomplished, she makes them hire the most ragtag bunch of no good nicks that the league has ever seen.
Mm-hmm.
But wouldn't you know it, those no good nicks comprised of Ricky Wild Thing Vaughn, washed up catcher Jake Taylor, Corbin Burnson
playing himself,
Leonard Bernstein,
Willie Mays Hayes,
or
Willie Hayes Mays. Which one was it?
Willie Mays Hayes. Yeah,
he runs like
Hayes.
He hits like Mays.
Hits like Mays. Yeah.
Okay. Mays actually is the Cleveland Indian word for corn. So that's also interesting.
Relevant.
It's another tie-in to the themes of this movie.
They are never going to win. It's impossible. You brought forth this embarrassment to the already embarrassed city of Cleveland. But wouldn't you know it, that ragtag crew, they get their act together. And not only do they not lose enough to move the city, they win. And they win the division after one game playoff with the Yankees, and all is good. And for some reason, Renee Russo breaks up with her fiance, and everything's good. Credits.
Yeah, thank you for glossing over the Renee Russo part. The wisest choice you've made so far this episode is just sort of, and she's also there.
She's also there. Just go ahead and give me that Randy song about the Cuyahoga River catching on fire, and let's call it a day. Let's wrap it up.
That's at the beginning, not at the end. The end is a much worse song.
It is, yeah.
It is. Thank you. Me and Tyler we had the credits running, and Tyler's like, do they know what movie this song was going to be attached to? It just seems sort of just like, yeah, that's fine. That's the sound of stapling a song to a movie.
It's a common baseball theme. They were inspired by A League of Their Own, which hadn't happened yet. Ending with "This used to be my playground," which is like the saddest way to end this very nice,
uplifting
movie. Cleveland. Okay, we both have a relationship with Cleveland in that I'm from Ohio and that your brother used to be there, and you have fled
Yes.
to the Cleve before. Tell me,
I have fled to
what's
the
your
Cleve.
relationship with Cleveland?
I think Cleveland is actually a surprisingly beautiful city. When my brother lived
1988.
there, apparently. But, it was an industrial town, which meant that there were a lot of wealthy industrialists who put a lot of money into the town again. There's a lot of cute neighborhoods in the Cleve, We're all models west of the Alleghenies. I will say, I don't think since Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings, I've seen such sweeping shots of geography in a film before as what felt like the first 20 minutes of this movie. I was boy, this is a really long Randy Newman song because it's just panning shots of highways and factories and that guy from the middle talking with his friends.
Yep.
Neil Flynn. I had to write it down.
Janitor from Scrubs,
the janitor from Scrubs, the dad from the middle, the dad from Girls Five Eva, Busy Phillips' dad in Girls Five Eva, married to Amy Sedaris. Yes, it is a lot of shots of Cleveland. I do appreciate a movie that tells me where I am.
Repeatedly. And also mostly.
And where is this? I always say during
mostly
movies.
Filmed in Milwaukee, by the way.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Cleveland too expensive for you?
I read this a different way than I would have years ago, but it's funny. They were like, yeah, actually, it's mostly shot, other than obviously those establishing shots were Cleveland, but mostly filmed in Milwaukee because they're like, Cleveland's a union town. I'm like, oh, so you're fuckheads, basically. We can't underpay our workers enough. Let's go to Milwaukee.
Wonderful.
Love a blue collar town that's like, yeah, you can exploit our labor. It's fine. That's my Milwaukee accent.
Flawless.
My relationship with Cleveland is interesting because I am from Ohio, but I've been to Cleveland more as an adult playing gigs and shows there than I ever did growing up because it was like four hours away or something. Like we didn't go very often.
You were a Cincinnati girly, right?
Well, yeah, I'm from Dayton, so Cincinnati was the closest like bigger city, and because I was closer to Cincinnati, Cleveland was like the one we made fun of. And I'm sure it was the same, the opposite direction, because you just make fun of whatever. So it was like the mistake on the lake, the armpit of America, you know, all these kind of things, which having been there, of course, by the time I went there, it was late 90s would have been like the first, or mid 90s would have been like the first time I went there. And I was like, this is nice. And then I go in the 2000s.
This is a mistake on the lake, guys.
Also, you know, I didn't have a lot of experience there. So I know there's it gets a bad rap. I think it's fine.
So there you go, everyone. That's Major League, directed by David S. Ward.
It's weird to see Chief Wahoo again.
Oh,
their retired and pretty racist mascot. So
he appreciates just being called pretty racist.
He's like,
racist. Thanks. That's pretty nice. Things are looking up for old Chief Wahoo over here.
Yeah. I mean, do we need to just like step into the problematic corner already, or do we need to save that?
Well, yeah. Let's go in there.
Let's go. Hit that problematic corner.
Ooh, watch out now, y'all. Damon's got a problem, baby. Ooh, watch out now, y'all. Let him know about it.
Okay, so we're here. We're here in the corner. And obviously, just the fact that the team is still called the Indians, they have now changed their name to the Cleveland Guardians. And I do think, like, it's not really... The name Indians is already like, well, that's not where we are.
But there's so much Native American motif going on with almost anytime someone gets a home run, it's been hit off the reservation.
Yeah.
What's Bob Uecker's radio show called? Like, I wrote it down, I think. Teepee Talk.
Yeah.
Teepee Talk.
Yeah.
All the fans, of course, are in headdresses. There's a teepee in the stands.
Yeah.
Looks like a structure that's part of the situation. There's a lot of headlines about scalping their opponents when they win a game. I don't know what else they have. Did they work in maze at any point?
Did they do the tomahawk chop? I know they do that in Braves games. I can't remember if they did.
I didn't see a tomahawk chop. There was a woo 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 hand.
Sure, woo woo woo. Yeah, yeah.
Stagecoach had a more nuanced version of Native Americans than this movie, than the Cleveland Indians as a club seems to have.
Yeah, it's pretty racist.
That's not this movie's fault necessarily. I guess they chose the team that they were going to display, but yeah.
Well, and David S. Ward is from Cleveland, and so his quote about this movie was, I made this movie because it was the only way I was going to see the Indians win. And I really, as a fan of baseball and a fan of sports teams that have been historically very bad, I really relate to that. And I think that's very charming, just as a statement. It's a collective fault of a lot of people that this was allowed in the first place. I also, while we're in the corner, just want to talk about just, general female agency as a problem in this movie.
We do have... This is the real problem. I mean, Cleveland Indians, maybe I've been grandfathered into seeing Chief W, but the women in this movie... I did compare the sweeping shots of Lord of the Rings, and I think the Lord of the Rings comparison is still apt in that there are 2 total women in the movie. 2.5, actually, my correction, in that Corbin Bernsen's wife is also a factor for like what amounts to a story beat on Home Improvement. She's just in it for just a little bit. Yeah. I mean, not that particular
I was like, I don't remember that storyline
in an episode.
Okay, gotcha.
You don't remember when that honeypot scandal that Al had to go through?
I don't think so, Tim. So there was
okay. So let's talk about
Rachel Phelps is our main antagonist.
Yes,
and she's played pretty cartoonishly, and she's a good foil. I feel like for the most part, but it's that one thing where women are either a romantic interest or they're a bitch. Those are like the 2 choices, and they give her the like bitch role. And she's also like a former, what is it, model or showgirl? Vegas showgirl.
Showgirl is what it said, yeah.
And so she's kind of like reduced down to like just straight villain. And
she seems to hate baseball, has no interest in the team. She wants to move the team so she gets things for herself.
She doesn't like Cleveland. She's there just because her husband was there.
She goes to the game and just scowls, which even if you were the owner, you'd think you'd like put on a show of being excited, but she just sits in her little box made out of fence lattice and scowls at the team winning. I kind of was torn because, I mean, there was a lot of like underlying misogyny, which was just simmering under the surface for most of the movie. And then it boiled over into, to motivate the players once they realize her scheme, they create a cardboard cutout of her where she's wearing this sort of leopard print dress that every time they win, they can peel off a piece of it to reveal her naked body underneath, which is grotesque in retrospect. And I feel like in just Spect, that was grotesque.
It was supposed to be like a boys being boys kind of thing.
It's locker room talk.
Yeah, literally. Yeah.
It was an example of like, well, she's a bitch, and the best way to combat a bitch is to sexually humiliate her.
Right. And there was, I don't think this would have been done super well just because of the level of movie we're in here, but there was apparently a version of this movie's ending where that was a ruse to like get the team together, which doesn't really make any sense.
That seems so ham-fisted.
Yeah.
It would be the only way to make this worse is like this sort of, oh, no, I wanted you to win, and that's why I was telling people, even in private, that I wanted to move the team to Miami.
Yeah, and who knows what like was filmed later to like, because apparently it didn't test well, which also speaks about the audience. Like that would have been some sort of attempt at making a 3-dimensional character who has like had some other motivations other than just being a villain, but it's also like I can't imagine that would have been very good either in terms of like her arc. But of course, like it is, if you think of it from like a real life perspective, like, some people are dicks, right? Like she could have just been a dick, but also maybe she was in a marriage that she didn't, either like she's sad because the husband, she misses him, or she hated her marriage and she doesn't want to be associated with this. She's like kind of stuck with this team. She wants to go somewhere else, and she's kind of stuck there because she has this asset that she can't sell off. And
a Ted Lasso situation.
Yeah, right. Like, and so you can imagine that's actually, and Ted Lasso's obviously that's the main analog for this whole movie. And I think they did a much better job, obviously being 30 years later, of like making her a 3-dimensional character who's like can be rough around the edges, but also actually has some motivations and some interesting
and is a nuanced character with 2.5 dimensions at the very least.
But then there's Renee Russo's character. It was Lynn Westland. She plays Jake's former love interest that he just decides.
Former wife, right?
No, he said he messed it up. So,
I thought she was his ex-wife.
No, he says at some point that she would have been if he hadn't messed it up.
Okay.
So I think they were like planning to get married, or at least in his mind they were. So when he moves back into town without, like contacting her at all beforehand, and it's not like he had this planned. He was in the Mexico League, just kind of staying drunk off his ass, sleeping with, there's another woman in this. There's the woman in the bed.
her ass. Yeah, the woman who was just in bed. The literally faceless woman.
Yeah.
Well, not literally faceless. She was intact, presumably.
Visually faceless? I don't know how to say that.
Her face was off camera. It still seems weird to say it that way. What's wrong with me?
I want to take her face off is what I would say. Yeah.
Her face was on Nick Cage and his face was on her. What a playful romp. But yeah, there was another woman. So yeah, this was also really fucking creepy watching it in 2024. He does move back to Cleveland where she lives, but rather than, like you were probably about to say, he doesn't have plans to reconnect with her. He just sees her offhand at a restaurant and then starts like calling her, calls the restaurant, has the stewardess or the waitress or the hostess. God damn it, Damon.
Wow.
Just went through
a bunch of antiquated ways to refer
for her. He has the hostess go and tell her, that she has a call, and then pretends he's like randomly calling a restaurant and creeps on her. And then he's like, I won't let you leave until you give me your number. She gives him a fake number, as he finds out later. I'm just going to run through their whole plot real quick. Yeah. She gives him a fake number of like a mechanic.
It belongs in the problematic corner.
And then he's like, well, I guess I'll just have to go to the library that she works at. And so he confronts her at work, and they have a whole scene at work as she tells him to essentially leave me alone. Don't you remember when you cheated on me repeatedly with a stewardess? That's where I got the term stewardess.
Yeah.
We call them flight attendants now.
Yeah.
And then
that's
he does
not
follow
the main
her home
issue
from work.
here.
He follows him home from work, her home from work. Her license plate says Reed, by the way.
Because she's a librarian.
So she's a fully fledged character.
She's smart.
She loves a novelty plate. And then he finds out that he didn't actually follow her home. He followed her to her fiance's house. So she's not just like casually dating this guy. It is her fiance. She is building a life with this man, who then treats Tom Berenger like a dick because he should. He's being a dick. And eventually, he then finds her real home, comes in on his own, unannounced, and then they have sex. And then, eventually during the Division League Championship or whatever, she shows up without a ring on her finger. Because she's just been so wooed by Tom Berenger's meat-like face.
Well, she
to come back to him
actually says at some point like, this doesn't change anything, but she does. Yeah, I can understand that being a little bit mixed signals, but he does kind of like keep showing up. Like it is clearly written. I mean, we know it's David S. Ward. It's got his signature all over it, but it is clearly
David
written
S. Ward,
by a man.
come on this podcast and debate us.
This is
Let's
classic.
Ben Shapiro this out.
That's a classic woman written by a man situation. Yeah. Like it's just
she walked boobily down the stairs. Indeed.
Yeah, it's just like not how human beings act. And
I could even forgive like the fake phone number thing and that be the end of it, or a moment where he realizes like, oh, this woman doesn't want me around. Probably because I betrayed her trust often.
Yes. And then disappeared for 3 years and didn't like call her.
And then showed up and acted like, no, I had plans for us. What are you talking about, you lunatic?
He acts like he already apologized. He never apologizes for his past behavior. He says that like it's in the past and that he's grown up and he's getting his life together, but he never says, I'm sorry I did these things. I never meant to hurt you. He never even like approaches anything like that. And yeah, so that whole storyline is a drain and problematic. And continuing on the women, we've also got the Dorn's wife. What is her name?
I can't remember what her name was. Was Loretta? Was something? I can't remember because it's such a C plot, and I'm like, movie, stop it, stop adding things. The movie really wanted me to be invested in Wild Thing, Charlie Sheen, and Dorn, which is the southernmost tip of Westeros, but also played by Tom Berenger. No, not Tom Berenger. Corbin Burnson. I had to go through my generally handsome 80s stars.
Not part of the actual Seven Kingdoms.
They never bent the knee is the thing.
Yeah.
Corbin Burnson never bent the knee.
So Wild Thing, sleeps with Mrs. Dorn. Accidentally, she seeks him out because she sees Roger cheating on her like on TV. There's like they're in the background. He's with a woman in like some celebration, some party. And so she seeks Wild Thing out, sleeps with him. He doesn't know it's Dorn's wife, but then he finds out and he's like, I didn't know. And then she tells Roger, I guess just as a way to like get back at him, which is a super healthy way to deal with it.
These two people have you should be using I statements, not sleeping with your husband's rival. We should be speaking in I statements and being honest with each other. You know what I would say? And I'm going to go out on a limb here. This might be a toxic relationship.
It might be. Don't worry, because Roger Dorn, in the middle of like the big moment in the big game,
The sand snake, they called him.
Wild Thing's got, one guy to get out. He comes to the mound. They haven't spoken since this whole thing went down. Roger Dorn realizes baseball's more important than my marriage. You strike this motherfucker out.
Yeah, and then he punches Vaughn.
And then he punches him afterwards.
And that solved the problem, I guess.
That was one of my favorite "you son of a bitch" moves. I love a "you son of a bitch."
You do love a "you son of a bitch." This felt like, I will say this about, when we can get out of the problem at a corner if we need to.
Let's get out.
Okay.
Ooh, watch out now, y'all. Damon's got a problem, baby. Ooh, watch out now, y'all. Let him know about it.
And he's rounding third and heading straight for not the problematic corner.
Now we're back in our normal room where we record that has no corners. It is a perfect sphere.
And we're at war. The eagle faces left. No.
Okay, so I like that because I love presidential seal humor.
It's niche. Find your niche.
He's facing the arrows. It's dumb.
So stupid.
Corbin Bernsen's whole story in this, his rivalry with Wild Thing, felt like an editing mistake. I didn't look into this, but it felt like the movie really wanted me to be invested in their rivalry, but their rivalry came up once every 45 minutes, which when you're watching a 2-hour movie isn't very often.
Yeah.
In the third act that there's this honeypot. Can I use the term honeypot? That feels loaded, but I'm going to keep using it.
I don't know.
Because I don't know if I'm going to use this phrase ever again. It feels like a situation.
Get in the comments. Let us know if it's problematic.
I'm sure it is. I'm already uncomfortable referring to pot in any sort of vessel here full of honey.
Make it legal. Oh, wait. No.
Their rivalry seems like sort of added in here for color. And I was surprised that there was actually a story beat in the third act that I was supposed to give a shit about. I'm like, she barely was in the movie. Like, in the one scene she's in is just to establish that he has a wife. I feel like the whole storyline of I feel like he's not playing his best was just to establish that so that Tom Berenger would go to his house, establish he has a wife so that later she can appear. Chekhov's wife is what I'm saying.
They do get that one beat where Tom Berenger says, I will rip off your fucking head or something like that.
Rip off your nuts and shove them down your throat.
That's what it is. And she's like, coffee? So that's the main reason. She
is a comedy icon, of course.
They also she looks so different in the scene where she's sitting in bed she's dressed completely different. I mean, obviously she's sitting in bed. She's got full silk pajamas. Good for you. Looking good. Get comfy.
Live your life.
She's wearing the
little things.
She's wearing the big 80s granny glasses. I'm in bed glasses.
Mm-hmm.
And then watching this go down where she's Roger at the party. And
not to mention when she honeypots, she also looks completely different when she arrives at the bar
when she honeys pot, I believe is the...
it's like attorneys general, you plural the middle. It's just the rules. I don't make the rules. But you sound like an idiot if you say honeypots. When she honeys pot, she is dressed, again, completely different. She's sort of combed back her hair into a tight, I think, bun. And she's sort of made up a little bit differently. And if you suffer from wig blindness, as I've talked to you about the show, I've trusted the show to hold that in good faith with me. I was sort of like, now who's this? She kind of looks like, is that the wife? Tyler, is that the wife? Why is she sleeping with that guy? I thought she was with Corbin
she chooses
Bernsen.
a very 80s hot outfit for that.
A lot of lame, a lot of striking lines on the face for cheekbones.
There's Simply Irresistible is playing in the background. Ding, ding.
There were 6 women who looked just like her playing bass badly behind her. Yeah, it was a really weird beat, and it just felt like an editing mistake. This was supposed to be a bigger thing than it actually was. We need to go back to the problematic corner real quick.
Let's just pretend like we're in there.
Okay, fantastic.
I don't want to play the song again.
We got to pay Jackson every time. Do you think, I'm not familiar with Milwaukee, but do you think Milwaukee has a lot of voodoo experts that can supervise a film production?
Mm-hmm. Are you saying, are you talking about Joe Boo?
I am talking about Joe Boo. And who's the character that Dennis Haysbert played?
Pedro Serrano.
Pedro Serrano. Serrano, yes, like a pepper.
Like a pepper.
I had trouble understanding what Serrano's deal was. He had a batting problem. What was the batting problem?
So there are kinds of pitches that you can throw. A fastball is like straight and fast. So at the end, when Wild Thing's when Wild Thing is, at the end, he keeps giving him the heater. He keeps giving him number 1. That is a fastball. They're easier to hit because they don't move. They don't like wiggle around. They go straight, but that's the way to pitch the fastest. So you can basically the way that you get a batter out by pitching is by changing things up, right? Either with different kinds of balls that move more, they might curve, like a curveball.
Oh, okay.
There's a slider, which has the impression of sliding from one side to the other. There's a changeup, which is the grip makes it go really slow. It looks like a fastball, but the speed is, so you call it an off-speed pitch. And there's other versions of all these. There's cutters and whatever. So there's a bunch of different kinds of pitches. So the problem with Serrano is they had been, when they first show him in batting practice, they're just throwing fastballs at him, which is normal for batting practice because you're just trying to get practice. But he's now throw him some off-speed stuff. So that would be anything else. Basically, cutters, any other kind of pitch he can't hit. So basically, at the major league level, he would get out every time because they are going to realize that after 1 second that, So that's his problem. He can't hit at the major league level, basically.
I liked him generally, although I felt uncomfortable liking him because he was it felt weird.
It's cartoonish.
It felt, cartoonish and racially charged.
Yeah. This is very problematic. I'm sorry this isn't in the corner. Sorry.
We'll get it back in the corner.
Throw that in the corner. Imagine we're in the corner.
This whole thing is in the corner. This is an all-corner episode. I'm sorry we went back to the spherical room. We're still in the corner. Twist! M. Night Shyamalan style twist.
It's a two-headed eagle. It's facing both the
it's
arrows.
The Armenian eagle. It's facing both ways.
What's the other thing? A wreath? What is the arrows and the...
It's an olive branch.
Olive branch. That's what it is. Thank you. Everybody's like, what are we talking about? We're talking about the presidential seal of the United States of America.
In relation to the 1989 baseball comedy Major League. I don't know. I mean, I don't have much to say about Serrano. I found him charming, and he seemed like the most over the top of the characters. My vibe towards this movie, by the way, is that the poster for this movie writes checks this movie can't cash.
Okay. Tell me about
baseball, the personified baseball in the poster looks so crazy and wackadoo. I'm like, this is gonna be fun. And then these guys come in. I'm like, they're just sort of guys. Aside from Charlie Sheen and Serrano, they're all just guys.
Willie Mays Hayes, he's a kooky character.
He's not that kooky. He just seems very excited to meet people. How you doing? How you doing? That's about it. And he pins up his gloves to the wall whenever he steals a base. That's charming, but I don't know if that's really a full-fledged character.
He's got a funny wiggle in his bat. He's nobody knows where he's from. We never find out where he came from.
He seems to have just snuck into the auditions, is what I call them. I'm going to be singing from Wicked. Okay, Willie Mays Hayes, I don't think you understand what we're doing here. Did you know that Wesley Snipes actually filmed this whole movie with his eyes closed, and they had to draw on his eyes after the fact?
Is that true?
No. I'm making a reference to, of course, everyone's favorite Blade 3. Where he filmed an entire scene that he was supposed to open his eyes during. He's passed out or something, knocked unconscious or something. He's supposed to have his eyes closed, and then he's supposed to open them. And Wesley Snipes was in such a fight with the director that he would not open his eyes. And so if you watch Blade 3, they sort of CGI'd his eyes opening on top of it, and it looks fucking weird. Wesley Snipes is a weird guy who doesn't pay his taxes and sometimes doesn't open his eyes.
Played a great drag queen, though.
A very jacked drag queen.
You're saying you were expecting a talking baseball. Is that what's happening?
I'm not saying I was expecting a talking baseball. I was expecting, I don't know, just some real madcap, perhaps. I feel like the tag isn't as ragged as I was expecting. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
When you say ragtag, I want that tag to be ragged. I want it to be just shreds of a tag. But this was just sort of a tag that has a crease in it. Kind of sits on your back weird.
For you, Major League by David S. Ward is too subtle, is what I'm getting for you.
Okay. Take out the voodoo priest. Take out the penal column. Penal
column.
the guy. Paging Dr. Freud. Take out Charlie Sheen. And what do we got? We got a guy who
take out
kind of
four
doesn't
of the main
like
characters.
Voodoo. That was two of the main characters. We've got a guy who kind of doesn't like the voodoo thing, and he's a little bit old. We've got Tom Berenger, who's got bad knees, and I don't know if anyone else has a name. Corbin Burnson is just like, watches the Financial Channel. That's what's so quirky about him.
He's so obsessed with his contract that he won't play baseball correctly.
Yeah, that's wow. I'm laughing already. We also got the coach who looks like he's part hound dog. He looks like he's not going to make it through where the red fern grows near the end. I guess I was kind of like, I was waiting for some madcap cartoonishness, and I feel like I just got just the barest hints of it.
It's been a while since I've seen it, but I'm pretty sure that you were expecting what they delivered in the second one, which is, if I recall correctly, a lot goofier than this one. Like, it's a lot zanier. It's not full on like Naked Gun or anything, but it is even wackier than this, and it has some of the returning characters and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, I guess it's more ragtag in the sense that they don't seem like they're going to win is the idea, right? Like, this is a bad baseball team because they're bringing like a washed up catcher. They're bringing in like someone who's like obsessed with his contract, and so he won't like play to this fullest, which doesn't make any sense because if you've got if you're nearing the end of your contract, you wouldn't play not to get injured. You would play to earn a better new contract, either with this team or another team.
I was just about to say that, so I'm glad you said it.
But that's not my only. I want to just go ahead and get into the problem with the plan in the first place. Now, and this is like
the Miami plan?
The Miami plan is similar to the Ted Lasso plan. Let's be so bad that no one will come to the games. That plan, which took that 800,000 people or less could come. If that happens over the course of a season, then she can void the contract, basically, because they're there for so many more years or something. That plan was already fucked when they started doing well. They had already probably exceeded. I mean, I don't know. They didn't keep a tally of attendance, but it had to be pretty low to reach that threshold. And
was it 49,000 or 40,000 or?
It was 800,000 over the course of the year.
Okay.
Yeah. And I think that's a similar thing to what really happened. I read a couple things about like the Minnesota Twins. The owner had threatened that, and it was like if you had less than a million people over the course of the year, and that didn't end up happening. And something similar happened with the Rams in Los Angeles. They ended up moving the team. And
all I know is the Baltimore Colts leaving in the middle of the night because I have I think I may have mentioned this during the intro that
it happened to Cleveland.
She lived in Baltimore, and she was like, no, 1983, the Colts just disappeared one day. I'm like, what are you talking about? This is the stuff that football should be putting up front. Who cares about all the other shit? I want to know about skullduggery and slipping away under the cover of darkness to a whole new town. You took your whole team out of the town? That's what I want to hear about. I want messy drama. That's what I want. I don't want like, oh, well, this team penalty. I don't care about that. I want messy drama. Owners just being criminally negligent.
That's what I want to start a podcast for the NBA because I don't really follow basketball, but it is messy with the players. They're always like fighting, and I don't know what's going on. I know like some names and stuff, and I'm like, oh, Kevin Durant does not like that guy, and I want to know all about that, but I don't want to talk about who had a triple-double. I don't know what that means still after watching basketball. Anyway, so
it's when you dribble 3 times and then you toss it to a guy and he tosses it to another guy. That's triple-double. And then Cleveland also lost their team because the Browns left. They became the Baltimore Ravens, and then they went like 4 years without a football team, and then the Browns came back in 99. The Browns exist now, correct?
Yeah, because they came back in 1999. That was the
Their helmets are yellow? Is that correct?
Orange. Very close. Good job.
If only there was like a color people associated with our team.
They have brown as well.
I like that orange and brown. It makes you seem like a 1970s airport lobby. I like that.
Or like a Reese's peanut butter cup.
True. What's wrong with this peanut butter?
It's the same peanut butter. So anyway, this plan, by the time they catch up to 60 and 60, that's 500. 500 in baseball is like, you're still in it. They have like 30 games. Now they end up having to like win 30 30 out of 40 games or something like that. They have to do really well at the end. So it is like a miraculous streak, but that has happened in baseball. It's not that crazy. I mean, it's
Especially
crazy
when you have like 600 games a season to play.
Yeah. There's 162 games. They got a lot to get through.
Too many games.
They show the audience. I did it now. Coming for the auditions. They show the crowd getting bigger, right, as the team is doing better, as they establish these kooky characters on the team, and people that like singing Wild Thing, and like they're getting into it. This plan is fucked. It's already done. She's not getting out of the contract. So why didn't at any point when Willie Mays Hayes starts hitting well and stealing bases, fucking trade him, get rid of him?
Oh.
You can do that. That's what. Did you ever watch Moneyball? I hope you didn't, with how much you don't like baseball. It's very baseball.
Because it was like, what about baseball and math? I'm like, no, absolutely not.
I love Moneyball, the movie.
But you hate the book.
Well, I didn't read the book, actually. But that's what he ends up doing. It's not to make the team worse. He's actually trying to statistically make it better. But the GM like really fucks over the manager's plans because he's like, you can't play this guy that I don't want you to play because I traded him, and I don't know if that actually happened. It's just in the movie, but she could have done so much to change the course of the season rather than just getting these guys. Cause it's always a risk. Like people can do well, they're professional baseball players.
Yeah.
And then it just seems like a bad plan. That's all I'm saying.
It also seems like, I mean, I know she wants to go to Miami, but I feel like she would also be a beneficiary if the team is doing well and fans are excited again.
Yeah, I mean...
Because of the money? Have you heard of money?
All she wants is to leave Cleveland and belong to this country club. I think she's got money. She inspired LeBron James. LeBron James is like, I could leave Cleveland too and go to Miami. I'm taking my talents.
The end of my sports humor.
I'm taking my talents and my baseball team, and I'm going to Miami.
Just like LeBron James.
I will say the thing that we just covered a little bit and is reflected, I think, appropriately in this movie is that the sports team owners are generally not good people.
No, I feel like anytime a town makes a deal with a sports team, it literally feels like a deal with the devil. I mean, we are both in Nashville right now, and we are about to start paying our taxes towards the Tennessee Titans so that they can have a new stadium just a few feet from their old stadium. It's a great system because if we don't pay them, they might go to back to Houston or go to Miami themselves. I don't know, but I'm like, good riddance. Get the fuck out. Don't ever elect me to office if you enjoy sports because I'd be like, see ya.
Bye. You're immediately impeached. Like you run out of town.
Take me down. So they would literally bring a rail to the city council meetings.
We had to dig this out from the bottom of City Hall. It's our old rail.
Do you know how hard it is to find a rail these days?
So, okay, going through the characters, let's talk about Wild Thing a little bit more. How'd you feel? So
Charlie Sheen. First off,
winning.
Hashtag Tiger Blood. Is that?
Do you remember when
millennials? Is that correct? Tiger Blood was part of it.
He had a full mental breakdown in plain view.
Yes. And it was weirdly viral, and we were coming up with hashtags, and every straight guy I knew was saying things like hashtag winning.
Yeah.
He seems great.
I found that weird in the time, and then now reflecting on it, it's even weirder. You're like, this guy was going through some stuff.
And 2.5 Men was like, we are not putting up with this. If you hear the name 2.5 Men, you associate that with quality, and we are not going to sit back and let Charlie Sheen sully the good name of a Chuck Lorre sitcom.
We're going to bring in Ashton Kutcher, who will never have any issues in the public eye.
He definitely won't do brownface in the 2010s.
He won't publicly support a very, very bad person.
I will say this. First off, I was very pleasantly attracted to Charlie Sheen's face, and especially when that dangly earring got even danglier. It felt like it was getting danglier as the movie progressed, and I was like, this is doing something for me. I didn't know that this was a part of my psyche, but yeah, it was like a C-clamp earring, and then there was like a dangly bit, almost like on a lamp. Like if you wanted to turn off a lamp in the 80s, you just pull it, and then sometimes you'd accidentally pull it and turns back on and you're like, no, I pulled it too hard. And then sometimes in 1997, you would finally give up the ghost and pull off completely. And you're like, Dad. And he's like, we're just going to get another lamp.
They're like, we don't make that lamp anymore. We can't just get you a new chain. You have to just get a new lamp. It's not that expensive. Just get a new lamp.
We got one that has like a thing you stamp on with your foot on the floor, but it sort of makes the cord all awkward and it's always going to be in your way. Like,
we're gonna get one with that little roller switch that you can never fucking find on the cord.
And you're just like feeling around a hot light bulb trying to find it, and it's 9 o'clock at night. Anyway, Charlie Sheen's like that.
It's 9 o'clock.
Why did they say 9 o'clock at night?
Why was 9 the time? It's like, why were you looking for the... Anyway. Yeah, so...
He is a cutie patootie. I wasn't really buying that he was such a badass for some reason, even though he does get in several fights and throw things. I was like, oh, little buddy. He just felt like a little bit like a kid, like a temper tantrum. Most of the time, he's just kind of quiet and sullen.
Yeah, he's pretty chill. Like, actually, his actual behavior, like he's in prison, but he's in prison for stealing a car, nothing violent. And
well, in the Cars universe, if you were in Pixar's Cars, it feels pretty violent.
Really violating, actually.
Jesus, Lightning McQueen. He doesn't deserve this.
No, you're not like my real owner. Oh God, this is all kinds of weird now.
I don't know what this means. Why do I have a title in my glove compartment? It doesn't make any sense.
Just coughing up like random mints and stuff that have been stuffed in your glove box.
Whose McDonald's cup is this?
So that's what I actually found interesting on this rewatch is he's kind of just a chill guy. Like he comes off as like this badass guy, but he never actually does much in that realm. Like he
fights Corbin Burnson when Corbin Burnson tricks him into thinking he's been kicked off
that's right,
the junior league or whatever, the practice league.
He's been cut. Yeah.
But he also, what's weird about that is that he has kind of a cute moment where he doesn't want to look in his own locker, which is also makes him more childlike almost.
He just seems like a kid. Yeah,
he just seems like kind of a sullen kid rather than like a guy with a hair trigger, which I feel like is what the movie wanted me to think.
Yeah.
And then he gets glasses, which I also find kind of also like a child. Like, he doesn't want to admit he can't see things real good. And then he gets the dorkiest glasses, especially in the 1980s. They weren't even like retro yet. My dad would call them BCs. Birth control frames, because you'd look so terrible in them. But his has like a skull and crossbones on the crossbar, which also seems like something a kid would get. Yeah. Like only a kid would think, this is badass. So I feel like the attempts of making him seem like a ne'er-do-well and like he's violent only just made him seem like a child who skinned his knee and doesn't want anyone to see that he's actually crying. Like, no, I'm fine. I just have to run home real fast.
I had that reflection in this watching too, because I think it's just maybe me being in my 40s now watching it. Right. It's like, these are like, they're kids, like Willie's character and Charlie Sheen's character, at least, because they'd probably be like 20 and they're 22 or something like that.
Yeah,
that's what rookies are. And yeah, they played, but like he was in a penal league. That doesn't even necessarily mean that he was like, we don't know how old these guys are, but they're kids. Jake's the old guy, and he's probably 35 in the course of this movie, at least.
Right.
And you just realize, like,
I think the only person I'm younger than is the other pitcher who like has VapoRub and various creams and salves all over various parts of his body.
That's a good bit too. I like that.
I will say, I think, Charlie Sheen's character in Ferris Bueller's Day Off feels much more dangerous and sexy than his version in Major League.
Yeah.
Although I did think it actually felt kind of real, that the Wild Thing. That actually, of the handful of baseball games, I almost said video games, baseball games that are based on the video game baseball. That idea of like, we've given him a nickname, it's Wild Thing. We're all going to sing Wild Thing when he comes on the field. It's going to be this whole thing. That felt very like...
Well, there's pitchers. There's a pitcher that like took that on to like change his number to 99.
In real life?
Yeah. I can't remember which pitcher it was, but that's pretty fun. Apparently this movie actually inspired, because now a lot of times like there'll be walk-up music for like
really?
When a pitcher's coming out of the bullpen, they'll like play a song and they'll like run out, and it's like more of a show thing, which is great. I mean, sports is entertainment. I think sometimes we get that gets lost. I think that kind of stuff is great. And now batters have walk-up music, and I don't know if it was never done because there was always the like that kind of stuff, but like actually having songs that were like in a theme, it made it more like wrestling in that sense. And apparently that was inspired at least somewhat by this movie.
I am always amazed. Again, handful of times I do go to a sporting event. I actually went to a soccer game last week here in Nashville, and I'm always amazed by how much it feels like the game knows I'm bored out of my mind. Like at the soccer game, they kept playing a drum beat, like a drum line beat throughout the game, throughout just normal play. And I was texting my friend who was actually texting Russ, who had season passes, and he was seated in a different part of the theater again. And I was like, hey, Russ, is this drum line thing just going to be throughout the entire game? Is this a normal thing? And he's like, oh yeah, when no one comes to the games, they do this drumline thing. So it's just to keep you amped. And I'm amazed at football games. Like people get so defensive when I say I don't like football, but even football will admit like we should put some hot chicks on the sidelines just to keep everyone going throughout this whole thing. And even like we went to a Nashville Sounds game once, and there were games in between every inning. Like, please don't go, stay. We're gonna be giving stuff away, and we're gonna have mascots racing each other for some reason.
Minor league baseball goes crazy with that stuff too. They go all in on that.
I'm just always amazed that even games seem to be like, yeah, it's fucking boring to watch this. We get it.
Well, you see, you're relating to the children who also come to these games and need to be constantly stimulated.
Fucking bored out of their minds.
They're not sports purists like I am. Like I want silence, and then no, I'm just kidding. No,
Honey, don't talk to me right now.
There is like one.
And kids can't even drink. Those poor bastards. They're just having to sit there and pretend they like Dippin' Dots for the entire time.
I just want to say the one thing that Charlie Sheen really does. He didn't do a ton of super funny things in this, but there were a couple of things. First of all, like him squinting before we realized that he can't see anything. He did that a couple times, which was nice. Because I don't think he did it too much where it was cartoonish, but he does it just as like when he's looking at something in the distance, like when Jake sees Lynn for the first time, he's like just like looking in the distance, and then he's squinting his head. And then when in that same scene, when Jake's like talking about the guy she's with, that Lynn is with, he's like, you want me to drag him out of here? Kick the shit out of him, and then Jake doesn't say anything. He just shakes his head. It's like to himself.
I did laugh.
I'm not doing that.
I did laugh at that. There were a few lines that got a laugh out of me. The inspirational speech by the coach, the hound dog that coaches the team.
Yeah.
The local press thinks we can save everyone's time if we went out there and shot ourselves. Made me laugh out loud. I also enjoyed Bob Uecker a lot. For some reason, I got into my head that great. Bob Uecker was going to be some sort of tertiary villain, but I think is that Rookie of the Year where?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Is John Candy a villain or no? There's another guy. John Candy's in another movie where he's the announcer.
Yeah, he's that one of those.
Little Big League?
It might be Little Big League. I can't remember.
There is a villain.
You're thinking of Mr. Belvedere, where Bob Uecker was the villain.
Where he was always trying to kill Mr. Belvedere. He would put a plate out of birdseed to lure Mr. Belvedere to the birdseed. Then he would paint a tunnel on a wall to trick him into thinking he could pass through that wall. The funny thing, though, was Mr. Belvedere would pass through it as if it was a regular tunnel. And then Bob Uecker would come back and he'd be like, oh, I guess. And he would make a big rolling start to run and he would slam into it. And we'd all laugh.
We'd all have a good
We would
time.
all laugh.
Bob Uecker
Chuck Jones was a genius creating the characters of Bob Uecker and Mr. Belvedere.
Before we get into quotes, though, I don't want to go to quote roundup just yet because I want to talk about Willie Mays Hayes a little bit.
I mean, I've already given away one half of my quotes.
Oh, okay. Is there just one?
In the one quote I've already given.
I have a lot, so if you want to go.
Oh, God. You mentioned this earlier. I have a baseball question for you.
Sure.
So Tom Berenger of Inception fame. Is that true? I feel like he was in Inception.
Are you sure you're not thinking of Tom Hardy?
No, don't worry. I'm not thinking of Tom. I'm not confusing Tom Berenger and Tom Hardy. I can tell you that.
I'm never not thinking about Tom Hardy.
Yeah, he is in Inception. Question me again. I will walk off this podcast.
Okay.
He plays the meaty-faced man. Yep. So you mentioned the hand thing where he's doing the pitch.
The
code.
signals pitch, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Charlie Sheen keeps shaking his head and he just says, well, I guess we'll do number one again.
Yeah.
Was I texting someone during where that was established what their number one pitch was? Where their jangling index finger pitch was?
No, that's sort
or
of
is
like
that a unified code?
That's sort of, well, it's not anymore. There was a time where it was kind of a unified code. I don't know if I learned this in this movie, that meant fastball, because also each team has their own signals. Otherwise, they wouldn't do signals. They'd just be like, fastball, but
do the curveball thing.
So now there's it's pretty complicated, and they change it every season and sometimes per game because the other team might see their signals and they don't want to. They're trying to communicate just with their team. And so, yeah, but that's kind of universal for fastball. And it would be your second pitch, curveball or whatever. But they have all kinds of other, you touch his leg when he did the one signal. I think it was 2 and then touch his leg. That was fastball inside or outside, depending on what the batter is. So he's
all right. I was just the movie was making it. It was clear it was this moment in the movie, and I was like, oh no. I wasn't paying attention at the time when they established what this meant.
No, it's
why'd they shoot that
baseball.
guy?
Why'd they shoot that guy?
I was reminded of the baseball episode of The Simpsons where Mr. Burns is going over all his signals, and he says, if the play is a fake, I'll touch my belt buckle not once, not twice, but thrice. And Homer is not paying attention, and then later on looks over to the sidelines, and Mr. Burns is doing something completely wacky.
Yeah.
and he goes, ugh. Doesn't know what to do, and that's what makes it funny. Major League, take note.
You see in baseball, and you probably don't understand this, but pitchers and catchers have to work together.
I'm familiar with pitchers and catchers.
I want to talk about Willie
I've
Mays
got
Hayes.
signals. I've got hand signals that I do.
Okay, so I thought Willie Mays Hayes was a pretty charming character, but it seems like you were expecting more from.
I'm not saying he wasn't charming. I thought he seemed like a charming guy in a normal way. And I feel like if you're going to sell me a baseball with a mohawk, you better come bringing it.
Don't say come bringing it. So they played that jaunty music while he hit pop-up flies. Doesn't that make you think, oh, this guy's not very good at baseball? Ragtag.
No, I mean, he had to do the 20 push-ups, yeah.
He's a rookie, so he didn't understand that you don't need to do that in a game because he's not smart. He's a very fast, so he's very cocky about that, and I liked that. It was kind of a Ricky Henderson type of character, and that's a famous baseball player. Sorry, at least from the 80s and 90s. The funniest thing is when he walks up for the first time, and you mentioned this already, where he's like, "How you doing? How you doing?"
It is charming.
I like that guy.
I also think that his car looks expensive, but I think that he had sort of put parts onto a Volkswagen Beetle. So it looks like.
Yeah, apparently that was actually a thing. There was Rolls-Royce kits for VW Beetles, and eventually they had to cease and desist because Rolls-Royce
because
was
of all the things you would assume, even not being a lawyer.
I didn't even notice that, but I feel like that's such a great character beat because it's obviously he's not rich. He's just a kid who came out of nowhere. He's got this fancy car and he's wearing a suit. He's trying to have a good impression. And then he just shows up unannounced to this camp and they kick him out. Also, I don't know if this is how it works. If all the baseball players sleep together in barracks during spring training, that doesn't seem right, but maybe it
also
is.
Seems weird if you want someone off of your property because they're not supposed to be there, to lift them up and just sort of slightly move them
take the bed
right by the place where you'll be playing doesn't seem like a great use of your time.
Where he can obviously get right back in because he just runs. It was a good bit though. He's so fast.
I am charmed by the Rolls-Royce thing. And I am remembering that when he does well or something, he goes outside the locker room in his stockings still, and he sort of does a dance so that no one else can see him, which is charming.
Yeah. Just like with Tu Wong Fu, I was surprised by how charmed by Wesley Snipes. This famous movie actor who was a very big star around this time. Or I guess this was one of his first. This is one
of his first movies, I would
Because
imagine.
White Man Can't Jump, I think is where he burst on the scene, right?
That's right. And then Passenger 57, the 57th in the Passenger films that we
always
all
bet on
loved
black
growing up.
Yeah.
Is that what does he say that in Passenger 57?
Yeah. You ever play roulette? Always bet on black. And then he hangs up and the guy's like, how does that? I don't think that's a good plan.
Because 50% of the time it will be red. And also, is this a race thing? Or
also, what does that mean in this context? I don't understand. And then he's shot.
Is he? I'm sorry to ask this. Is he saying always bet on black? I don't even want to vocalize. Is he saying always bet on black because he is black?
I think so. Yeah. I think he's saying, who are you?
And then he just says always bet on black.
So he's narrowed it down,
It sounds like a great movie. Let me just hold on. Passenger.
We got to write that down in the
57. Are you saying, my dear DJ, that you want Wesley Snipes of Closed Eyes fame to be your Catherine O'Hara MVP of the movie?
I think so. I think I do. What about you?
I am torn. I feel like there's a lot of potential in Dennis Haysbert's character that just never got fully realized. I do appreciate that the owner spanked him in some weird way. Oh, not in a weird way, in the obvious way. He was a handsome man and she spanked his jockstrap butt. Yeah, actually, I'll second Wesley Snipes.
Hold on, can I make a counter proposal? Bob Uecker.
Oh, actually, okay, go ahead. I actually have a counter proposal that I just remembered, but I'd like to hear your counter proposal to your own proposal.
My counter proposal to my own proposal is Bob Uecker.
We may not be. Oh, okay.
Bob Uecker carries the humor of this film. Like, he is the one that made me laugh the most. He's playing the commentary, and like he's got a lot of the quotes that I remember from this, and quotes that are used by actual commentators and announcers to this day. Like, anytime someone throws a very wild pitch, they go just a bit outside. And then when they do, anytime they throw a lot of, not even necessarily 2 walks in a row, but like a lot of balls, they'll say ball 8, which is very good.
Wait, you can't have 8 balls, right?
No, there's 4 to walk.
Okay.
To walk. So that's what was funny, is he threw 2 walks in a row, you see. So it's like ball 8. You don't count it that way. But then Vaughn was a juvenile delinquent in the off season, which I very much enjoyed.
He did get my other quote when he's on TP Talk, his radio show. He says, "If you haven't noticed, and by the attendance, you haven't." I laughed at that.
And then he asked, like, what's his partner's name, Marty or something? He's like, "Marty, got anything to add?" He goes, "No, I don't think so." And he's like, and that's why he's the best color commentator in the business. Like,
I did laugh at that. I do have a counter proposal. Okay. And I think I just like looking at this person. I find him intriguing facially. James Gammon, who plays the coach, who literally looks like a hound dog. And I have to say it like that when I see looks like he was put too close to an open flame. He's just melting away. But he's just,
yeah. He also sounds.
He's like if Nick Nolte was just. What if Nick Nolte never was the sexiest man alive, and we just sort of let him grow a mustache?
Skip to the end,
right? If we just skipped all the sexy parts of Nick Nolte and just did the other stuff at the end.
He also sounds like he's been gargling broken glass for a few years.
I did like that when the recruiter or whatever, general manager calls to hire him to do the coaching. He's like, "Hold on, I've got a guy on the other line who wants to do some whitewashing or whitewalling on his tires because he's working at a tire place." Is that what it's called? Whitewalling?
Whitewalling, I think. I feel like Lou doesn't get enough humor to be the nominee for this.
I know, I do. I just mostly like his inspirational speech about killing ourselves, which maybe he's like, "I'm not much for inspirational speeches," and then he just references suicide, which is funny to me. But we can go with Wesley Snipes, or actually, no, I will actually second Bob Uecker since he actually had a quote I like.
Bob Uecker.
I like Uecker as a last name.
Oh, one of the.
It's like, what if you just have too many vowels in Scrabble? Make a last name.
Make a last name. Also, heir to the Uecker fortune, one of the most expensive card games there is.
You can tell because there's an RE at the end of it. Oh, I remember my friends in Indiana. Indiana loves euchre. They tried to teach me euchre once. Oh. And by the end, I was just throwing out cards because I could not understand the rules. And so, but I know that if I threw out certain cards, people would pounce on them like ants on a honeypot. And... And so I was just throwing out cards to see, well, here's the King of Diamonds. Let's just see what happens now. And they'd all like, and then I'd be like, here's the Queen of Spades. And then no one touched it. I'm like, I literally have no grasp on this game.
I want to finish up the quote roundup and then let's go to.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Let's go to verdict. So, just when I can't remember which guy he's talking about, but one of the like coaches, when they come up, he goes, "Look at this fucking guy." That's a thing that I quote randomly, not knowing where it was from. And also, Roger Dorn, Corbin Burnson's character, when he gets sass from Wild Thing, he goes, "Mr. Tough Guy," which I really like. It's not particularly funny. It's just the way he delivered
you're
it.
absolutely right.
But
it's funnier to hear you reference it than it is to actually hear it in the movie. My brain didn't even take note of it.
You got to remember that when I first saw this, I was like a 7-year-old baseball fanatic. So
and you're like, that's something to say to someone. Mr. Tough Guy.
Also, I really like, this is a quote that I didn't remember from seeing it, when the opposing team hits, I think the Yankees or something, like hits a towering home run. The one fan goes, "No, too high," which is not a thing. And then they make fun of him. Too high, too high. I feel like I've heard that at baseball games. This is also where the Ted Lasso reference comes from, where Tom Berenger at the end says like, "Well, I guess we better win the whole fucking thing," which is what they say in Ted Lasso as well.
I liked that because it brought this interesting strategy to a game, which is to win.
To win, yeah.
Finally, an idea of what we should be going for.
Can we go to the verdict, please?
Yeah.
Damon
DJ,
Zach,
what do you think about this movie?
I was gonna do a random baseball fact type announcer thing about you. Damon's in his 8th year as a podcaster, and yet
am I?
He's never learned how to use a microphone. Funny enough,
it's true. It's true. Hey, I turned it off to eat the cherry out of my Manhattan, so let's give me some credit.
You've come so far, Damon.
Yeah.
This movie has a lot of problems.
Are you verdicting right now?
I am. That's what you asked me to do, didn't you?
I know. I couldn't tell if, because you were introducing me, that I was about to get tricked into verdicting first.
I'm starting the commercial over. No, so this movie has a lot of problems. It has a big problem with women. It has some racism. It has some plot issues. It could be funny. It could be funnier. It could be a lot funnier. If Bob Uecker wasn't in this movie, I think we would be missing about 60 to 70% of the humor, and he's not even a main character.
I don't even think he has legs in this
You
movie.
never see him, out from behind the board. However, I still find it charming, and I think the sports sequences, like it's like kind of cheesy, but I think they did a really good job at like building tension, and it looks, probably because they just filmed it in slow-mo, it looks like they're good at baseball. They did a pretty good job, and you kind of root for them. I think
we're onto something, guys. Slow down the cameras.
Slow it down. Your Inner Child is not an idiot. This movie is, if you loved it as a kid, it's less, even though it has all the problems we issued, I think I was expecting it to be raunchier on a rewatch, and it's not so much raunchy as like, ooh, there's a few like problematic moments.
Less fun, more
yeah. But I still think if you go into that knowing that, and you know that it's like it's about a team that has been renamed for its racist name in the first place, and it's got some issues with all the stuff we already talked about. It's not like those are a surprise if you've seen the movie before. So I think if you keep all those things in mind, Your Inner Child's not an idiot. I liked it. What do you think?
Nah. I think Your Inner Child is an idiot. I feel like, I mean, with all the problems that we've already mentioned, I just think it's kind of a snooze, even as a sports film. Like, I can usually get into a sports film because I'm like, good, you've established the good guys, and I just need to hate the guys in the gray uniforms, whatever. Yeah. But this, I just could not get into. I felt like I said, I felt like I was sold a bill of goods. Baseballs with mohawks. What I got was just some schlubs on a team that was not really as... I felt like it was halfway between, like, is it going to be wacky, or is it going to be like a kind of down-to-earth comedy about being low-seed ball club?
We're just
is that a
normal...
phrase that would make sense if I typed that into a sports column? A low-seed ball club?
No.
Seeding
sure
is a thing? Seeds? Yeah, but I found this kind of a snooze. Nah. Also, we didn't even talk about the tension of Chekhov's Tom Berenger's knees, which I feel like was an interesting. I felt like that was set up in such a way. I'm familiar now with cinematic language where I'm like, they keep mentioning his fucking knees, and I kept waiting for them to just explode during the middle of a game, and instead he sort of sacrifices them for his last big run. But the problem with this is it's kind of like killing Spider-Man at the end of the Avengers Endgame.
Yeah.
I know they're making more Spider-Man, and I know they made Major Leagues with Tom Berenger in it, so I assume his knees are fine.
I think he's a coach, actually, in the next movie.
Oh, okay, never mind.
I think his knees are out, but yeah.
I take that back, Major League. You're fantastic, and your inner child is not an idiot. No, you're kind of a very forgettable movie. The fact that I have been tricked into thinking that you're one of these sort of madcap against all odds comedies is
Damon,
to me.
You dumb son of a bitch. This is a cinema classic. Everybody should.
This fucking guy.
Everybody should sacrifice their knees to go watch it right now. Run. Stompingly.
Run to your Hollywood video and then realize that you've wasted your knees just doing that.
What do you think, everybody? Email us, yourinnerchildsidiot@gmail.com. You can text us or leave us a voicemail, 615-576-0525. We have to stop. If we go over.
I just want to mention one thing. Rene Russo's apartment is monochrome and has the skinniest grandfather clock I've ever seen in my life. Like
that's what you had to come back to watch. To mention.
Look, I watched it with my partner and we both were like, what the fuck is that clock? Because, we were bored by the baseball stuff. But when we saw that, it was the skinny, like I would call a clinic. It's a weird clock. Look up her apartment. That's a fun little homework for the listeners.
If your clock needs help, there are resources available, and it's not a fun laughing matter. What do you think, everybody?
Despite my laughter just then.
Email us, yourinnerchildsidiot@gmail.com. Leave us a voicemail or text us, 615-576-0525. We want to thank our patrons for supporting the show. Thank you very much.
Keep talking. Keep going. Keep going.
Coming around
keep talking
third
about
and heading for home is a Little Miss Chicken Nugget.
Oh, and just cause rounding the bases.
Lindsay Halik played in the California Penal Leagues last year, but she's coming back this year.
Beth Surmont overcoming ankle surgery. She twisted it falling into a toilet.
One of the top 15 players over 40 and over 6'5", Travis Vance, is coming around the bend.
Jonathon Day came back from a sabbatical filming inspiring shots of Midwestern cities.
Walking down the steps with the vendor is a dramatically placed hot dog in the stands.
Lindsay Nell is here. Lindsay Nell bought the Cleveland Indians from her dead husband, pushed him down the stairs, so they say.
Captain Jean-Luc Picard is up to bat and he hits it. Oh, it's a long fly ball. Going, gone.
Shit on the Cartouche. Actually, shit on a sarcophagus, actually. He was arrested in a museum last week, out on parole.
Dr. Malcolm's heaving baseball.
Jackson has an unhealthy obsession with Damon. Another player in the league, not the same team, though. I don't even know what that means. I'm not a color guy.
The hands of fate better put on some batting gloves so they don't get a stinger when they hit that line drive in center field.
The elusive fan Gromkin spotted in the stands. If you do see them, report them to security. Thank you.
Oh no, Diamond's Australian accent is now in left field. A little change from the manager.
Particle Man, caught that pop-up fly from the baseball.
We're just going to have to start saying random things. The supreme ruler of this podcast, Foul Pole.
Larissa Maestro coming in hot on the second left field.
Caroline Amberson, popcorn.
Zachary Hartley, big green wall.
We almost had it. Tommy Boy is Damon's favorite movie as well as Rookie of the Year.
David Mort, Little Big League, Minnesota Twins.
Heather Tuggle's batting 500 on this homestand.
Karen Kurd knows that Tony Danza was in Rookie of the Year.
His honor, the mayor, doesn't care for baseball.
Bill Haynes, more of a soccer guy.
Josh Frigo found some gum on the bottom of his seat and ate it anyway.
The Zesty bought a double gin and tonic for him and his partner. Cost him $72. It's a fucking scam in this stadium.
Jeremy T. Powlen has an impressive baseball card collection, and that's, I think, maybe true.
And, of course, we got rounding out the roster, we got T. Smith, who's playing for a Make-A-Wish kid. The kid, though, wanted us to lose.
Thank you for your support, everybody. That's how to make your thank yous last 45 minutes.
Jesus
Thank you for being
Christ,
here.
Why do we start with whole sentences? We just need to do a funny voice. We don't need to come up with sentences.
I don't know. Patreon.com/TrainerChat if you want to support like them. Thank you all very much. Bye.
Bye. Wiggle, 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 wiggle.